Good day everyone, I am Jayan Enriquez. Today I am going to discuss or simply explain the various literary elements of children and adolescent literature. So we have plot, so the sequence of events showing characters in action. So sequence is chosen by the author as the best way of telling the story. So it defines the what, when, and where of the story, which allows for everything else like characters and themes to develop. So second, we have the character. So in children's literature, character is used to mean a person or personified animal or object. Writers use characters to perform the actions and speak dialogue, moving the story along a plot line. So, a story can have only one character, which is the protagonist, and still be a complete story. And then we have theme. So the idea that holds the story together or the author's message to the reader. So it is the main idea or the central meaning of the story. So themes often deal with society, human nature, the human condition, social issues, and good versus evil. So authors reveals theme explicitly as well as implicitly. So fourth, we have setting. So the time and place where the story occur when the story depends upon reader understanding, envisioning, feeling, and sensing a particular scene. An author often goes to great lengths to describe clearly the setting. So, settings not only help to clarify a given story's themes, they can also help us to understand a character's worldview through how they think about their surroundings. So, fifth, the style. So, authors' choice and arrangement of words to create plot, characterizations, setting, and theme. So the author's word choice, sentence structure, figurative language, and sentence arrangement all work together to establish mood, images, and meaning in the text. So sixth, we have point of view. So the side of the story the reader sees as revealed by the author through the characters. So point of view is seen through the eyes and minds of characters as the plot. What I mean is as the plot unfolds. So point of view can be used to express the feelings, thoughts, motivations, and experiences of one or many. So for the last one is the tone and mood. So mood shows the the subject of the story while tone tells the reader what the characters think of that subject. So mood and tone are two literary elements that help create the main idea of a story. So the mood is the atmosphere of the story and the tone is the author's attitude towards the topic. We can identify both by looking at the setting, characters, details, and word choices. So this time, I will explain the various visual elements of children and adolescent literature. So, we have line, color, and space. So, line define objects and can suggest movement, distance, and even feelings. So, they lead your eye around the composition and can communicate information through their character and direction. So, second, the color can be observed for its hue, brightness, and saturation intense of feel. Writers may use different colors to draw the readers' attention to a symbolic object, communicate something about a character, or simply emphasize a theme. So, lastly, we have the space. It is a fundamental element in each of the visual arts. Space gives the viewer a reference for interpreting an artwork. So previously, we tackled the visual elements. So this time, I will explain the verbal elements of children's and adolescent literature. So first, we have the pose. So a speaker or teacher takes poses between utterances in order to process what the speaker say. So in general, you should post periodically to allow folks to absorb the message you have delivered to that point. So a post also builds anticipation and gets them wondering what's coming next. So posing after asking a question is also a great technique because it makes them think and mentally involves them in your speech. So we have rhythm. So the speaker talks or read can be powerful tool to engage listeners, especially children and adolescents. So the stressed and unstressed syllables also allow authors to place additional emphasis on certain words, creating more powerful semantic effects. Rhythmic patterns also help readers memorize poems more easily for recitation. So third, we have loudness or softness. Depending on the speaker's style, emphasis can be achieved by either reading the piece loudly or softly. So in addition, other emotions can be expressed using the loudness or softness of voice. Fourth, we have repetition and rephrasing. So unlike in reading, a listener cannot go back to what a speaker has spoken. If the speaker or didn't understand that particular utterance or text, another way to foster understanding of a complex or difficult idea is to rephrase what has been said. So fifth, we have tone. Tone of voice is essential in communicating the literary place effectively. Authors will choose words very carefully to set the tone. This builds a relationship with the reader and helps the reader to understand the author's purpose. So let's proceed to the various types of characters. So we have round characters. So a round character is deep and layered character in a story. Round characters are interesting to audiences because they feel like real people. Audiences often feel invested in these characters' goals, success, failures, strengths, and weaknesses. So second, the flat characters. So exist to support the main character and the plot. They are often stock characters which have become stereotypical through recurring use of common traits. So flat characters inhabit various roles, but they all serve the protagonist arc, often by providing critical information or acting as a catalyst. So third, we have dynamic character. So a dynamic character is in contrast rather is one that does undergo an important change in the course of the story. Often the protagonist of the novel, dynamic characters end the story as different people than they were at its beginning. So lastly, we have the static characters. In general, static characters are not the story drivers, but they are important because they emphasize the changes dynamic characters make. So in addition, they help readers move across the plot even when the dynamic character can't yet or deep in a conflict. So this time, I am going to discuss the characteristics of setting. So time defined as past, present, or future. It can also be a particular season or time of day. So, second, the setting can develop through illustrations or text. Illustrations are also really important in explaining complicated ideas in both fictional and non-fictional texts. Third, the setting provides details which reinforce the plot and characterization. So, settings have a major impact on what occurs in a story's plot. So, um, this time I'm going to discuss the three elements of plot. So, first we have the narrative order. It is a structured order for events which is independent of their dates. So, the events are contained in a hierarchical structure with the ability to give labels such as part, chapter, and scene. So second is the conflict. So the conflict is the primary problem that drives the plot of the story. Often a main goal for the protagonist to achieve or overcome. So the rising action of the story is all of the events that lead to the eventual climax, so including character development and events that create suspense. So third, the pattern of action. Plot is the organized pattern or sequence of events that make up a story. So plot is the literary element that describes the structure of a story. It shows arrangement of events and actions rather within a story. So the last one is the third person limited point of view is where the narrator tells the story from the perspective of a single protagonist, referring to them by name or using a third person pronoun such as they, she, or he. So I am going to discuss now the various devices of style. So first we have the connotation. So, writers often use connotation to create emotional associations that can be either positive, negative, or neutral. Second, we have the imagery. Through language, imagery does not only paint a picture but aims to portray the sensational and emotional experience within the text. Third, the figurative language. Fiction writers used figurative language to engage their audience using more creative tone that provokes thinking and sometimes humor. Fourth, we have hyperbole, a figure of speech that is an intentional exaggeration for emphasis or comic effect. Hyperbole is common in love poetry, in which it is used to convey the lover's intense admiration for his beloved. Fifth, the understatement. It is the opposite of embellishment or exaggeration and is used for emphasis, irony, hedging, or humor. Sixth, allusion. Writers use allusions as stylistic devices to help contextualize a story by referencing a well-known person, place, event, or another literary work. 7. We have symbols. So using symbolism in a story is a way of positively manipulating readers' emotions so they can learn something or enjoy the story more. So 8. We have the puns and world play. So a boiled egg every morning is hard to beat. This is an example of a pun. A witty use of word play for comical effect. So puns have many uses in both writing and everyday speech. They can be used to achieve a rhetorical or humorous effect in a piece of writing, for example, as an icebreaker at a party. So bad puns in particular can elicit the same groan-inducing reaction as dad jokes. So This time, I'm going to discuss the various devices of sound. So first, we have the onomatopoeia. So the usage of words to describe any sound that is created by a living being, a non-living object or entity is termed onomatopoeia. So in some cases, the sound itself is used as the word. For example, meow. So it's the sound made by a cat, and the onomatopoeic word to mention the sound of cats is also meow. Second, we have the alliteration. Alliteration is a literary technique derived from Latin meaning letters of the alphabet. So it occurs when two or more words are linked that share the same first consonant sound, such as fish fry. So some famous examples of alliteration sentences include the Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So third, we have the consonants. So consonants is the repetition of similar consonant sounds within nearby words. So it is in a sense the opposite literary device to alliteration. So consonants as with alliteration is often used in poetry when writers use sound to create meaning. So why are these elements are important to children and adolescents literature? So children's representation in literature and media plays a significant role in child development and growth because it helps children to understand the reality they live in or to discover other cultures, giving them the opportunity to develop empathy and respect for cultural differences.